Read the Federalist Papers, America. Read the book called The Federalist Papers. Read the Federalist Papers. It's all in there, and what's being taken away from us by these communist dictators called U.S. state governors.
Well, this is what Justice Alito gave a speech to the Federalist Society. Before I take John here on line one, who does agree with the governor's mandates on restrictions in your own home, Justice Alito made it very clear that we're facing a stress test on the Constitution because of COVID, creating a new ranking order of fundamental rights. As Jonathan Tobin writes over at the New York Post, and Tobin is a editor-in-chief of JNS.org. Democrats love the fact that these lockdowns are widespread. The justice made clear that he's not diminishing the severity of coronavirus's threat to public health, nor even saying anything about whether lockdown rules are good public policy. But the pandemic, he said, has resulted in previously unimaginable restrictions on individual liberty. And this has happened by executive fiat rather than legislation. Justice Alito pointed out that in Nevada, the courts deferred to the judgment of the governor of that state about how to halt the spread of the virus. The result was a rule that allowed casinos to operate while severely restricting the right to attend a house of worship. As Alito noted, treating the right to render worship to God as being as important as the right to gamble shouldn't have been a tough call. If you look in the Constitution, you will see the free exercise clause of the First Amendment. That protects religious liberty. But as Alito pointed out in his speech, you will not find a craps clause or a blackjack clause or a slot machine clause. And yet the courts let those restrictions stand, just as they have all throughout the country, including New York, where the state and the city have cracked down hard against believers for violating COVID-19 rules while cheering other events like Black Lives Matter riots or Biden victory celebrations, barely even bothering to hide that political or theological content is the deciding factor. You may not want to attend a church, a synagogue, or a mosque during a pandemic. You don't have to agree with the Little Sisters of the Poor about birth control. But you ought to be alarmed about how they're losing their rights because their faith is out of fashion. Rather than jeer Justice Alito's warnings, decent Americans, he writes, whether they're people of faith or unbelievers, conservative or liberal, should be cheering him.